Hello, everybody. It is great to be here one more time today. My name is Gary Fowler. I'm the CEO, president, founder of GSD, Get You Done Venture Studios, a premier AI and quantum venture studio located in the heart of Silicon Valley. I'm a 17-time serial entrepreneur with several unicorns under the belt. I was on the original management team at Click Software, which was sold to Salesforce for $1.35 billion, and also Eva.ai, an AI HR tech company that I co-founded with Dr. David Jang. We believe at GSD that intellectual capacity is evenly spread around the world, but opportunities are not. Today, I'd like to introduce Todd Abbott. We're going to learn a bit about Deliver.ai and how he's focused on specific individual within a company and how they can develop things like customer profiles. From his background as an entrepreneur, as a marketing executive, all the way to Deliver.ai. So with that, I'd like to bring Todd on board. Hi, Todd.
Hey, how are you? Nice to join you.
So tell me a little bit can you share a little bit about your professional journey and what led you to co-found Deliver.ai?
Yeah, so I've been a career sales and marketing exec, having kind of grown through the ranks at IBM, where I kind of learned the sales trade back in its heyday, joined Cisco at the early days when we had just crossed $1 billion and left when we were 19. That kind of really taught me how to scale super hyper growth. Also got the opportunity to live overseas for 6 years there, which was just a great experience. And then I kind of started doing some smaller companies. Smaller, first one off out of Cisco was a $1.3 billion company that we sold to Motorola. And then just continued to kind of get smaller. As you kind of do the big company, you really, or at least some of us, get this taste to kind of create and have a much tighter pulse on being able to kind of build something from early stage. So I've done a couple of startups, took over for a founder at Insight Squared, sold it to Mediafly, bought and sold companies. And I got exposed to Deliver.ai. A buddy of mine, one of my co-founders, was fooling around with some pretty cool tech. He's more of a marketing guy. And I got really turned on by the technology about really trying to identify who's actually in market. I grew up either in C-suite or one of the members of C-suite watching this ongoing debate of sales and marketing and the vanity metrics and misalignment on execution, and CEOs and CFOs always looking for where am I getting my return? What's the ROI from all this marketing spend? And this ongoing tension, I've kind of lived it. And when I saw the technology that my co-founder had developed, I was like, wow, that would change my world as a CRO or COO of any company. And that's when I joined.
So, you've gone down through it. You worked with John Chambers, I'm sure, at Cisco, and, you've been through all those rides, and I remember, I spent a little bit of time at DEC HP. I had 5 years that I took off. And I remember we had meetings to have meetings. And I could never figure it out. It was like very interesting after being as an entrepreneur. So when you started in the company, what drove you to make you want to do it? You went down, 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 but what was one time you had that light bulb go off and say, I want to be a entrepreneur. I want to do a smaller company. And it's a lot more risk, right? It's a lot different than being in Cisco and getting your options, right? And sitting around and having an expense account. I remember those days, right? But what drove you?
I think there was a point in my career where I was always a really driven, execution-oriented guy, kind of a no bullshit guy. And as I got further and further up into the organizations, a lot of times politics just gets in the way of really enabling a team to stay focused on what's really happening and what do we need to do to address issues or address execution. And so I just really tired of the intercompany politics. And for me, there was just kind of a point in time where I said that, yeah, I could probably at this stage of my career make a lot of money being part of these big companies, but my DNA was just not of the type where I could sit tight and watch a review go through and know that everybody's listening to the pitch or listening to what we're trying to solve, and bullshit meters are going off, but nobody says anything.
Yeah, I've been in those meetings. Or here's the other thing. I did this. I took legal pads. I had legal pads and I had a nice to-me portfolio, one of those nice ones when the days when you used to have like the ring binder with and I used to sit in there and I would take so much BS in some of the meetings. And I'm not just saying on the deck side, but just, I just would scribble things down. People thought I was, taking notes.
Yeah.
And I wasn't. I was just scribbling stuff down, but I would write like anything. And I could remember what people said. And they thought, that guy's really paying attention. That, I got 5 promotions.
Yeah.
It was crazy. I was like, this is nuts. We had those meetings, but, then you go down through and do the company. And then if you succeed, it's because of you. And if you fail, it's because of you. It's different, right? They can replace you in a Cisco, but when you're doing your own company, hey, listen, it's are you as good as you say you are, right? And every day you're facing that battle.
Exactly right. Yeah, I mean, I just kind of realized that the bullshit meter and what worked in those companies, I just was not a good fit for, and I'd rather go be part of a smaller company where I could build a team with a bunch of smart people where we dealt with the facts and kind of checked egos and politics at the door. It's all about execution and results. Like, let's have fun. Let's make a lot of money together. And those are just so much more rewarding and enjoyable. And I haven't looked back.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, it's, and everybody's all for one, right? When you're a small company, it's, you help each other, you do things together. It's just amazing. So, you mentioned that Deliver.ai provides a first-party resolution accuracy of over 50%. How significant is this compared to the existing solutions, and why does it matter?
Yeah, so buyer intent's been around for a while. There's companies like 6sense and Bombora, Demandbase, ZoomInfo. All of those technologies are all based upon measuring signals coming from an IP address. And that IP address is then associated with a company. So their whole value prop was to be able to tell you that this company in aggregate appears to be in market. In market really defined as when you're in the dark funnel as a buyer, whether it's B2B, B2C, we all go do our own research before we want to talk to a BDR or a sales rep, right? It's complete reversal to when I started, before the internet, right? The sales rep was the vehicle. Now, the democratization of information is that everybody does their own research and they don't want to talk to a sales rep or a BDR until they've determined which vendors they're going to engage in. And by most analytics and research, customers are 80% through the buying cycle before they come out and engage. And
that's a lot different than the old days, isn't it?
Yeah. You remember the old days? It was. Well, I remember the old days where it was. You were a consultant. You were trying to learn about the customer.
Especially at IBM, and the guy's name was David Peoples because he taught the sales training. I remember that guy. Yeah. He's a friend of mine.
And customers were open to your consultative approach to learn about how technology has evolved and changed. Now everybody does their own research and they don't want to talk to the vendor, right? And so the challenge is it's often referred to as the dark funnel, that 80% of the buying cycle. And so in every market, typically 5 to 10% of your target market is in market. They're actively researching. They're actively spending time. And yet what we do is we spend an awful lot of time digitally advertising or doing email sequences and outbound from lead lists of the whole market, trying to be at the right place at the right time. Highly inefficient, right? I mean, digital advertising click-through rates less than 1%. Google and Facebook, Meta, they love it because it's a very sub-optimized digital ad market, but we have to kind of continue to spend money to be out there to be considered, right? And now with email open rates less than 1% and connect rates very, very difficult. It's how do you get visible and aware to be considered during that 80% of the buying cycle. And so I, as a senior executive, spent so many management business reviews, monthly business reviews, listening to all of the metrics coming from marketing, the website visits, the amount of content created, how many webinars we did, how many people came to my booth, right? These are all MQLs, marketing qualified leads, and the qualification was only that it was a company. And then we would put that into the funnel.
The thing is, they would come with all these names. They would get them off these. What are the was it not SEC? There was a number you would get, if a company was in a certain sector. I forget what it was called because I haven't seen it.
Yeah, you're talking about the NIC, the industry NIC codes.
Yeah, the industry codes, and
Yeah.
they would get this thing, and they would go down, and oh, these are leads. These aren't leads. You come on, they're not like these are not leads. They're not
Right.
qualified. How do you know if they have any money?
That's right. And
Right.
so that's exactly right. And I've spent an enormous amount of time in these as a sales exec, watching all these metrics being presented, and then everybody looking at the sales team saying, "Why aren't you converting these leads?" Well, because they're not really leads. It's a contact, right? Just because somebody downloaded some content, came to your website, came to your booth, does not mean they're in market, right? And so when I saw the technology deliver, it was really revolutionary in the sense that the old buyer intent of identifying a company was really just one more step from an MQL. It was a company's aware, but you don't know who. And so you gave that to a rep, or you gave that to a marketing nurture campaign. Go figure out who in that company is actually doing the research. And you have to do it quick because they make the vendor selection shortlist. If you're not there in time, it's too late. And so buyer intent solutions are kind of going through the Gartner hype curve. Really exciting at the beginning. People have kind of realized as they hand them off to reps are now becoming disenchanted with them. They're not following up with them at the same rate. It's trying to find a needle in a haystack. And so we're still left with the same problem. And so what we had created, we started with a graph, a database with a graph. The only difference between a database and a graph is a graph has a lot more individual identity data points, cookies, hashed emails, universal ID numbers, MAIDs, mobile access IDs. So we have a lot more data associated with each individual that allowed us then to create a large language model. This technology wouldn't have been available before AI just because of the amount of data. So we buy data from the DSPs and SSPs, the demand side platforms and the supply side platforms. That's the digital advertising ecosystem of website visits. And so we get 60 to 70 billion signals a day that we then analyze. And a signal is a website visit, not a search term, but what site they're visiting. And we analyze that site and parse it to 23,000 standard topics. But when we parse it, we also are getting those identifiers to then be able to identify who it is that's searching those sites. Now, that's still a tremendous.
Fantastic. Yeah, that'll tell you who's going to buy what.
That's right. Right. And so then what we do is we allow you to create an audience, because it's still a lot of data, right? 65 billion parsed across 23,000 topics. I want to get the relevant people from that. And so we allow you to create an audience. Tell me your ideal account profile, or upload a target list. Tell me the titles of the people that would typically be part of the buying group. Think LinkedIn titles. And what would they be searching that would indicate that they're in market doing research? And so it's a batch system that basically does all of that parsing. That filter, or that audience, becomes a filter. I put all that parsed data through the filter, and then I can identify for you Todd Abbott from Deliver is actively searching for the relevant topics that you sell. And then we give that data into your CRM or marketing department. Now you've got an ability to start to hyper target to that 5 or 10%. So just advertise to them. Because I have a graph, I can also advertise just to them. And what we found is the best approach is a multi-mode approach where they don't know you yet. And so they're not ready to take an email. They're not ready to take a call. We found actually the least effective way is to just give this to a team of BDRs. They will, you can't call somebody and say, "Hey, I see you're searching." That's like the worst thing you can do.
What do you do? What approach do you take, Todd?
Advertise first, right? So because I have their MAIDs,
you advertise to them, and you have to craft the advertisement based on what they need, right?
Right. So and this is where I have found it's kind of been a bit eye-opening in talking with enterprises is, we've talked about hyper targeting for a long time. The reality is most organizations don't have the ability to truly hyper target based upon either an intent signal or how you hyper target a CMO is different than how you hyper target a VP of demand gen. And so I'm giving you the data, and what we found is the best thing to do is warm them up first, right? Advertise just to them. And doing advertising on a CPM basis to individuals much less expensive because I'm not targeting the whole market. I'm just targeting the individuals. So warm them up. Give them 5 ads a day for 5 days, 10 days, whatever the case may be. Then follow it up by some content, email sequencing. Get them to your website because I can use that same audience to identify, hey, your ads are working. Because
Now, do you
now
put the links when you're doing the, how do you do it when you're doing the ad? Do you have like links in there to websites and all that
put
too?
a pixel in the ad so I can tell when you see it, just when the impression hits. So I can tell you of that audience, this person got your ad 5 times yesterday, 5 times the day before. You can start to A/B test to say which ads are actually working in the sense of either clicking, or if you're selling into tech, a lot of people know don't click on the ad, they'll come in organically. And so I can also identify them when they come to your website. And so if you follow that, if you think about multi-touch attribution, right, this has been the big holy grail of what's actually working. Well, I can actually now tell you it's X numbers of impressions, which ads actually translated to either a click-through or coming to the website. And when they start to do that, now it's time to put them into an outbound call sequence because they now know who you are. So you've kind of already risen above the fray, and now you've got an opportunity to engage. So it really enables that fine tuning. And as I like to say, going back to one of our initial discussions, when I saw this, I said, wow, this would be great unifying data between sales and marketing. Like rather than giving me all this fluff, let's go focus our marketing and sales alignment on how do we activate? How do we translate that 5 or 10% that we can identify? Now we can be real partners to go figure out what content, what ads,
Yeah, instead of adversaries, because you'd always get garbage. I've run sales, marketing, business development, and it was tough on the marketing side because you'd have this group of leads, but they weren't always qualified, right? And they would come in and you send them over to give them to my salespeople, and the salespeople would be complaining and say, "Listen, I don't have time to do all this. I got to focus on closing deals."
And that's the debate that you see in these management business reviews, and the CEO and CFOs watching this emotion go on. Hey, I give you all these leads, but the sales reps aren't following up on them. Well, it's because they followed up on them for a long period of time and realized it's not a good use of their time because you've established a quality metric that's just not good. And the CEO and CFO are sitting there going, like, I don't know who's right here. Like, I don't know who's misexecuting. CFO keeps saying, why am I spending so much money on all this marketing stuff if this is the result? And so I think we can fundamentally change that dynamic.
Yeah, no, it's important. So, can you share a success story or case study illustrating how delivered a significantly impacted a client's marketing efficiency or sales growth?
Yeah, I'll give you 2. I mean, it's really kind of campaign driven, right? So when we engage with a marketing agency who's running a campaign, so we had an agency that was engaged with Adobe. Adobe was doing a roadshow, around the NFL cities on a particular product, and they wanted to get buns in the seat. They wanted to get people there. And so we created an audience that said, give me the people that are searching for the technology that this particular roadshow was focused on, of the right titles and of the right industries. So they were out actively looking and researching. And this agency put a marketing campaign targeted at them to let them know people know who Adobe was, but they might not have known about this particular solution technology. And so they really targeted that group of individuals, those prospects, and they blew it out of the water. Every NFL city was totally full because you were marketing to people that were relevant to your message, right? Another agency that was selling to a commercial lender. They bought a lead list from Apollo. That lead list was a million people, and they did an email sequence. We in turn created an audience of tell me everybody that's looking for commercial lending solutions, and it literally was 100,000, 1/10. The Apollo list created a number of leads, 2 closed deals. We had 100,000, 1/10, and identified and converted 26 closed opportunities within the same time frame. So it's really about don't throw it against the wall. Don't, the wide net, get super targeted, and then start to hone your activation campaigns to the messaging of people that are in market versus just brand awareness. And if you can hone those skills with this data, you get a fundamental different set of results.
Yeah, I mean, the close rate must go way up, right?
That's right. It all comes down to activation, right? Do you have a good strategy to differentiate between, like if I'm in this particular lender example, there were a couple of key competitors, right? So are they looking at competitors? I want some ads that compare me to that competitor. Are they doing basic level research? Then I need to educate them as to the value from my firm, right? So the ability to know what is this individual doing and what campaign, what ad, what email relevant to the title and to what they're searching. If you start to build in that capability, and I think that's where this is all going, is marketing has to create the DNA and the capabilities to hyper target at a level that you haven't had the data to do in the past. And if you do, AI is going to allow you to just execute at a whole nother level.
Yeah, no, you're right. And who knows how far down the chain too, right? It depends on its, maybe all the way to the closing the deal and collecting the money.
Well, if you're talking about, I'll use an example of a long sale process, say a 6-month enterprise sale. Think, where you typically have 12, 15, 18 meetings to close the deal. Think about being able to identify, as the buying group always expands as you go through the buying process. And so if you know what the titles are, and you can start to see who starts to do research over that 6-month sales cycle, and what are they researching? A lot of times reps are focused on one or two or single threaded. They don't have the whole buying group.
Yeah.
Oh, I can tell you actually when members of the buying group get added and start to search relevant topics from the initial people in the evaluation committee, as they go through it, they're educating. And then ultimately you see the executive come in. If you know what they're doing, think about the digital footprint through the buying process. You can actually start to customize not only the content, but the agenda for that next meeting.
Yeah, no,
So
I agree.
I don't need to ask, who are you looking at? I can tell you who you're looking at. I can set my meeting agenda to compare against those two competitors without ever even asking you that's who you're looking at.
And how's business these days? Do you have revenue?
Oh yeah. So we've been in market for, this will be our 5th quarter. We've grown 50% a quarter every quarter. We'll top 2 million this month, which we feel pretty good about. We're going out for a cap raise over the next 90 days. This business has the potential to be or is experiencing, and I think has the potential to continue to be a hyper growth business.
No, it's fantastic. So we're coming up to the top of the show, Todd. When I'm done with the show, I'll jump back on if you got a couple minutes. Be great to talk to you. And but closing thoughts, and how do people get a hold of you?
Todd at deliver.ai. Happy to engage, or hit me up on LinkedIn, whichever your preference. But we love to engage both agencies and enterprise customers, so we can help you understand kind of the new wave of person-based buyer intent. It's now possible.
No, I appreciate it. Todd, thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us today on Top Global Startups. My name is Gary Fowler, and I'm your host. To all of you out there, thanks for joining one more time. Stay happy, stay safe, and stay healthy. And I'll be back to you again soon with another exciting edition. Thanks, everybody. And thanks, Todd.
Thank you.